Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. In today's episode, we will be reviewing Ramy Season 3 with my good friend Dylan here today. If you guys can, please like and share, inshallah. We greatly appreciate that. Without further ado, we have a lot of great thoughts about Ramy. We love the show so far. But Dylan, as always, please tell us your thoughts.
Shakram Akram. Yeah, I'll be honest. This show was awesome. Like I just got into it, and season 3 was great. It talked about so many like cultural issues, like not just in like the Arabic community, but I mean just being an American, like bilingual like citizen, or you come from like two different cross cultures. I think that's really interesting, and a lot of people, even that aren't Arabic, can relate to these like sub issues, right? Um, but being Arabic yourself, how did you come across to this show?
Bro, I related so much to it. Like, my upbringing isn't like very like a type of devout in the culture per se. I grew up very differently from a lot of people, whereas my household is mixed, right? I'm half Cuban and also half Arabic. So I could relate though. Like, it just reminded me of so much stuff growing up that I haven't thought about in so long. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, everything going on here is like so relevant. It's so true. And I'm glad that it's so honest, right? Because usually the Arabic culture, it's very like you have to keep your emotions in. You have to be kind of secretive with certain revelations that happen in your family and whatnot. Here it was like putting it all out on the table. And I really greatly appreciated the transparency and the way how they delivered this storyline, especially of Israel. I think that was really awesome how they did it. So yeah, man.
Yeah,
What did you think of it?
that was awesome, honestly. Like the first two seasons, I felt like with Rami, I mean, it mainly focused on Rami, but this season, like, it kind of like focused on like his family too, and like everything that was happening with them. But also, like you said, like the whole Israel and Palestine thing, because I feel like the first two seasons were mainly like about domestic issues, like in the Arabic community. But now we see like what's what's going on, like in places outside our own borders, like like Israel and Palestine obviously have like a long history of like conflict, and we got to see like what's going on there, like the point of views from like that lady he met in
Oh,
the
great.
in
Yeah.
Palestine, that border. I love that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many issues going on, and Rami, like, he's so it's funny because like in season 1 he didn't want to like submit to like his parents' wishes, but now he's so invested in like being like a jeweler. I feel like now he's kind of like lost focus with his culture. He's too, I think, worried about money, that I mean, he's still kind of religious, but like he's not he's forgotten his roots, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think about Rami this season?
Yeah, it's interesting because he this season at least he wanted to go through some type of punishment. He feels guilty, and he always has this toxic relationship with God, and he becomes a very interesting character. Um, Whereas for some characters in this season, it feels like the religion gets in the way of their true potential or just becoming their actual selves or what they want to be. The culture gets in the way too. With Rami, it seems like perhaps getting more into religion, right? And trying to shed this skin of like guilt probably will be a good thing for him. And I wonder how they'll approach that next season. Because he has done a lot of questionable things. Um, but again, he's just a man, right? And he's just a human being. And you can never be perfect, right? And our religion, we always say only God is perfect, and obviously Rami isn't. So he tries to be. He tries to be up like an upstanding person after what of the events of season 2. But everything in his life just goes into in disarray. And I'm glad that we get that realization at the end, and it actually brought tears to my eyes because that was so beautiful the way how they ended this season. I thought it was really well done. I wanted to get your thoughts because you told me earlier one thing you liked about the show was some of the other characters as well besides Rami and his main storyline. um, you were saying that you felt bad for the dad. I felt really bad for the dad because I think a lot of families they could relate to just their father trying to make ends meet, right, and keep doing things. So, what do you think of the whole dynamic of Farouk, right, this season?
That man should never have invested in Cairo. That was,
Shit.
like, the dumbest thing.
Oh
But
my
no, I
gosh.
think, yeah, like, with, Rami's parents and his dad especially, I feel like there's always, like, a pride that gets in the way of, like, and I've seen this in my family sometimes, it's like, when you hit your lowest point, it's kind of like you fake it till you make it, like that whole episode where, like, they were, like, delivering groceries to their friend, like, I felt, like, so bad, for them. They're like, "Oh, yeah, we're just doing research," whatever.
Yeah,
I
I
was like,
know.
yeah. But, it talks a lot about, like, how certain cultures, like, handle, like, success, what does it mean to be successful, like, and what does it mean to be just, like, survive, right? I think for, like, people our age, like, I think we don't really understand, like, the hardships that our parents and their parents went through, like, becoming immigrants, so it's like it's a different lifestyle, and now because we've kind of, like, grown up with struggle, right? Because it's harder for young people now to, like, make a living, so we're kinda used to it, right? But for older people, it's like success for them is, like, weird, and they don't know how to react to it, so it's like seeing, like, Rami's parents, like, how they handled, like, struggle, and Mr. Farouk, like, he's kinda, like, in a weird spot because like, he doesn't want to ask Rami for help because he doesn't believe, like, his son should pay for, his father's stuff, but, like, he's also, like, dead broke, so it's like he's trying to, like, you know do all these loopholes, like, he's, like, trying to sell, like, his wife's stuff, so it's like he's making, like, more bad choices than just asking his son for help, right? Um, and then he has, like, so many ideas, like, he kinda wants to be, like, an entrepreneur, but, like, he doesn't really know, like, how to be, like, a successful, like, business person. I mean, he tries to be, like, a life coach in one episode to this girl, I thought that was so funny.
Oh, yeah.
But with the whole abortion thing. Um, it's like he wants to do better for his family, but he's just kinda, like, stuck in this mentality of, like, and it's weird because it's like, most people think, like, men are, like, the providers, and I think they're kinda, like, stuck in that mentality, but I think towards the end of the episode, like, him and Mesa come to, like, a realization where it's like, "Well, you know what? Our life is, like, miserable, so it's like, why don't we just try something different," right? And Mesa too, like, her character, like, in this season, like, she's trying new things, she's trying to be, like, a better, like, mother, towards Dina, but I thought it was funny too, because like, she's also, like, kinda jealous of her too, right? Like that whole scene where, like, she was calling the boyfriend, she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then he's like, "Oh, I'm actually with Dina." She's like, "Fuck." Um, but yeah, what did you take from, like, the parents this season?
Yeah, she's so Mesa's hilarious, as always. I love the actress who plays her. Yeah, I felt bad actually for Mesa this season. We get some of like her tendencies a little bit later on, like in season 1 and 2. She's a little bit like kind of like midlife crisisy type of acting. And again, she's a woman, right? So it's hard to kind of see. It's weird to see your daughter wanting to become a lawyer, or at least, go to college, and you yourself now you kind of want to be more independent, and you're trying to do all these like apps and stuff. I think they make a great a great pairing for Rook and Mesa though, because he's very understanding. That's
Mhm.
why I feel really sorry for them, because it makes me think, does culture really get in the way? Like, or at least that culture mentality get in the way? And like, once you're old, that's a whole different story. Sometimes certain things can be too late, right? Especially if you're in a financial deficit. One of the characters actually I felt really bad for is Uncle Nassim. Uncle
My
Nassim
favorite
had
character.
Yeah. he dude, that I had like my mouth was open like in a lot of like episodes just in this season alone, and a lot of them included Uncle Nassim. They were like, holy shit, that Chinese restaurant episode, I was like, boy, that is some drama right there. I don't know how he
Right.
didn't get arrested, but tell me your thoughts on that whole thing. Like his whole uh it's kind of like a duality. It's like, well, I'm gay, but I also have to like he's stubborn headed, but he has to pay attention to his culture because that's just built inside of him. That's in his DNA. So what do you think about that about him in general?
Nassim is a very like he's an oxymoron. It's like he has good intentions and like I mean you could say like gray morality. Like he's like a family oriented person, but obviously like he has like anti-Semitic views. He's very like anti like American, pretty much anti everybody. Really,
Oh, yeah.
he's politically fluid. He's
Yeah.
not Democrat, but he's politically fluid. But he's one of my favorite characters because he's so complex. It's obviously like he has like toxic traits, but he like you could say kinda like Rami was, like, being more of an asshole this season in a way, because Uncle Naseem, like, helped him get into the jewelry industry, right? And was like, he doesn't even wanna I mean, I get it, cause you know, Naseem was kinda, like, stubborn and he didn't wanna change his business, so obviously, that's why his business failed and Rami moved on from that, but, yeah, when we talk about, his sexual orientation too, there's, like he's kinda, like, in denial, and I think, like, when you're in that kind of culture where it's very stigmatized to be like anti like homosexual, like it's hard because you have a conflict of identity, and that's kind of what he was going through. It's like he doesn't really see himself as gay, but he is, right? So it's like it's weird for him to accept that and embrace that. But I think that was such a heartfelt moment that he and Dina kind of had because like he kinda like I love when he was talking to Dina, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, like, I wanna be a lawyer," and he's like, "Oh, yeah, you can be a good wife then."
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's like 'cause he has, like, good intention, but he's kinda, like, misguided sometimes, but he's such a paradoxical character, but what do you think?
Well, no, well, here's the thing. What struck me in that scene between Dina and, of course, played by May Kalamaui, from Moon Knight, right? So that's awesome to see her again here. Um, that scene when they were outside and he was, like, kind of exposing himself and saying, "Sugar daddy," I'm a kind of like a sugar
I just
daddy,
wanted some
whatever.
sugar.
Right. Like, he was kinda saying stuff without saying stuff,
Mhm.
and it struck me in a way because she said that she didn't take the bar, and he said, like, "Oh, good, become a wife." I wanna ask you, do you think he was so, in love with the fact that she didn't take the bar exam because he kinda felt guilty for the way how he is, like, because being gay, right, but he's so religious at the same time, kind of. Do you think that well, the fact that she doesn't take the bar exam, do you think that, like, that's at least she knows I don't know what I'm trying to say, actually, I'm confused. What yeah,
I think that for that moment, it was kinda like a sigh of relief. It was a heart to heart.
exactly.
So it's like that's like the first time that they've ever had like a common denominator where like they had like these secrets and now it's kind of like out in the open, right? Because they're so like far apart on like this like Dina's like a very like woke liberal like strong feminist character and like he's a very like conservative dude, but like this is like the first time we've ever seen them like really like bond over something. And I thought that was a very genuine moment and it talks about like how like sometimes like you know like in family, like the more we communicate, the more we can find like relatable issues. So I think in that moment, like it was kind of like a sigh of relief for him to hear, like, oh yeah, well, no, it's okay. So it's like it's not all about like him working on his stuff. It's also like he's trying to help Dina with her stuff too, right? So there's like a
Mm,
common, and I think like towards the end of the series, everybody kind of like talks about the whole like series this season was kind of like about like communication and about like how if we hold so many issues inside us and try to work around those problems instead of just like talking about it, I think it'll make us miserable, right?
right. And it's interesting too because there was a lot of signs here. There was a lot of shedding your faith, especially when the realtor came to the house and and she took down
Literally
like
shedding all your your your,
the, the
your
Quran
signage on the
passages.
walls. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, "How much better, it's less ethnic," or something like that. Yeah, I like this because there was a lot of back and forth about, um, it's very when you're in America, right, it's kind of hard to fit in, especially when you have a culture that matches more towards a certain country, and then you're here, and then how can you fit in really? Farouk said when they were high on shrooms, he said, we've been visiting for a long time, 30 years, right? Rather than we've been living here for a long time. It makes me kind of sad because now I'm thinking like, and in the hot dog thing too, which is funny because I love hot dogs, but really I can't eat them. Um, but it's like I like the fact that they keep adopting this idea where like, yeah, maybe we could shed this a little bit. But no, hold on. We actually should maybe pick this up a little bit more in our culture, our faith. It's interesting. And I keep harkening back to Rami in my mind because I keep thinking, wow, the most American guy in the show wants to be really devout because of this guilt. And I makes me think, well, yeah, I think the older you get, you start to realize sometimes religion is a tool because there's a community that comes with it, and there's a faith, and there's a certain principle to follow, right? And it could help you out maybe. For some people maybe it's a detriment. Some people maybe it gets in the way. Like for example, Nassim's gay, but
Mhm.
that conservative type of mindset gets in the way. And that's what I was trying to say earlier with Layla, or I'm sorry, Dina, because it's like, a sigh of relief that okay, she didn't do it. Um, there's a commonality to the fact that they have secrets, but at the same time too, well, okay, at least now you can follow the path. Whereas I'm failing with my path. I'm not gonna tell you it because I'm too stubborn minded, but I'm
Mhm.
kind of failing in a way, right? I'm hypocrite. And that's the thing with this
Mhm.
culture is a lot of people they have like they're kind of two-sided sometimes, and they can't really express themselves too much because of the old teachings, right, from the elders and stuff like that. And I appreciated
And
that.
and that's a lot of cultures too, not just like Muslim culture. It's not even just a religious thing. I feel like a lot of minorities are very stuck in their ways, especially like if you come from an older generation, you're so ingrained in that like ideology and psychology. It's like it's hard to break from that. For younger people, it's a little bit easier because especially if you lived in the US, you have that cross culture. So like this series so much explores like what it means to be both American and an Arabic person, and I think it's like you mentioned, it's so funny because like the white people are trying to be more like the Arabic people, and the Muslim people are finally like realizing it's okay to have American values and traditions, right? That's why I was laughing when 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 he was in the bar and the lady was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a witch,"
Oh yeah.
and he was
Oh
like, what he
yeah.
was like, "Oh, so what's the most hardest thing you went through? The Salem witch
I was
trials?"
like, that's your event, that's your
Yeah.
thing. So,
And then the white guy, like, started like, "Shh, my brother, my brother." But it's so fu like, it's true though, it's like, when you think about it, it's like Americans, especially, like, white Americans, I feel like, are so infatuated with the idea of being so involved in cultures that aren't theirs,
right,
just because I don't know, maybe it's because, like, we have a more closer tie to, like, family, or maybe we just do things, like, more efficiently. I don't know. It's just interesting to me. It's like you see a lot, especially nowadays, I feel like people, especially, like, fake woke people, I feel like are trying so hard to, like, be, like, inclusive or, like, try to, like, uh, cultural appropriate is what I'm trying to say. So it's
right.
like it's funny now when you see that, and it's like West like or immigrants are slowly realizing that it's okay to adopt like Western values. So it's like yeah, when they ate the hot dog, right? Or when Mesa started vaping. That was so
Yeah.
funny. Um
The jewel.
yeah, it's like they realize like even though they're part of this culture, they realize that their kids, the happiest moments that their kids had was actually like when they had like American traditions like eating hot dogs or swimming in a pool, right? It's like the idea of the American dream is that you can have a better life than the one you had, right? Because otherwise, why would you move to this country? That's like why Mesa says, like, why don't you just go to Cairo if you're so in love with Cairo, right? It's like we're in America, so we have, you know, hope for a better life, right?
Yeah, greatly said. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the whole situation throughout this whole season had so many like jaw-dropping moments. I think for one I'd like to speak about is Rami having a daughter. apparently. That shocked me.
That shocked the shit out of me. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah, I was like, and the guy in the prison was like, "Your
right."
daughter, man, your daughter,
You
look,
know?
look." I was like, "Oh my god." It's like, yeah. So, what did you think about that? Because I don't know how that would be in real life. I would imagine like people would, at least from her family side, at least they would try to get Rami to like, get involved because you're gonna pay, right? You have to pay for this kid. She can't, you're gonna be involved some way or the other. So what did you think of that thing? That shocked the shit out of me. So what
Well,
did you
first of all,
think?
fuck Zaynab for, like, not telling him about that shit. I mean, like, I get Rami
Yeah.
cheated on her, but, if you have a kid, that's something you'd wanna tell,
Yeah.
like, the biological father, right? So, I mean, she was kinda, like, toxic in that regard, but,
Right.
yeah, I think it was kinda like an epiphany for Rami because it's like, I don't think he ever imagined him having kids, and then once it happened and just, like, out of the blue, it's like, "Well, fuck, like, I have, like, responsibilities now," right? It's like, I kinda have to change my way of thinking. I can't, like, think about myself anymore, right? It's like I have to be better than who my father was, who my family is, right? It's like I have to be a man finally, right? Yeah, I think fatherhood, it really changes you and it makes you see things differently. And I think the next season I think is gonna explore that, like him being more well, trying to be more invested in his daughter's life because she's kinda like under her mother's custody too. And I thought that
Yeah.
was so funny when they were talking about like the name. She's like, yeah,
Yeah, I
it
know.
just makes me think of, like, annoying, and she's like, "Oh, yeah,
Right.
that's my mother's name."
That was so awkward.
Right, but what were your thoughts on it?
Well, yeah, I think he explained it. He explained it so good. I think when you have a kid, it opens a new side of you. Or if you have a lot of issues, sometimes it could be a bad thing when you have a kid because you're just not the right person, or at least in the right time of your life. You
Mhm,
you shouldn't have a kid. But for him, I think that opened the doors. Also, finding God, or like at least realizing that money is like kind of the root of his evil, at least, or something.
mhm,
I think that unburdened him a little bit, like the fact that he wants to get rid of it, and now he has a child. I think, to be honest with you, that was really great for him. And I think also she wanted nothing to do with him being in that job in the first place too. So I think, you know, we'll talk about a little bit about the end like soon, but I think that that was a great thing. So I think he'll
mhm,
probably be in a child's life for the most part, or he has a lot of making up to do. It
mhm,
just shocked me completely because, the show, it's like you're peeping into somebody's life, right? And it's very realistic. It's very funny, but it's very sad.
mhm,
And I think that's why the show's so beautiful. And I think a lot more people have to watch it just
mhm.
because of that. And so we'll
Well, it's
see.
funny
But
because like, in
yeah.
tangent with that, like, Mr. Farouk was, like, helping this girl, like
Yeah.
he's trying to be a life coach, and then she's like, "Oh, I just want an abortion." So
Right.
but it talks about, like, those issues because like, she comes
Right.
from a different
Yep.
society, and and he even says that, he's like, "It's not that easy in America," right? Like, that actually,
Very
like,
relevant.
interested me because it's it's funny how, like, certain people in different countries have, like, kind of, like, a singular mindset about, like, how things in America are, like, everything's so easy, right? Even though it's
Mhm.
not. So, yeah, and then he has, like, this, like, conversation where it's like, "Oh, well, maybe, maybe just talk to your boyfriend, or right?" Or like, even though it's weird, like, I get, like, things can't, like, always work out, obviously, but I think that conversation he had with the girl was like, "Oh, well, just try it, maybe just try, like, being a mom, see how you like it, because marriage can be beautiful, right? Even though it's toxic, and especially in this culture, it can be, very hard, but, if you try it, maybe, maybe it'll work out."
Yeah, he has, man, that guy has like a beautiful soul, I have to admit. Like I just love the way how he was talking to her. That whole thing, that whole scene, I think it was really beautiful the way how he explained it.
Why don't you just abort a healthy baby?
I know. See, that's why the writing in the show is so good, right? The writing
Right.
is so good in the show because it's like funny, especially
Right.
when like Nassim was like saying all this shit, but and then he was like, like he spits it. It's just funny how they do it. It's just for some reason you can't help it but to like chuckle a little bit, but you feel like so like it's like an endearing scene.
It reminded me
Um,
so much of Master Done, like the
yeah,
earlier seasons. Like, it talked
yeah,
about, like, it was funny, but still talked about, like, minority issues that, we don't think about. And speaking of that, I kinda wanted to talk to you about this one because we were talking a little bit about it before recording. The whole I love the whole Mo and Ahmed episode where they kind of, like, touch on, like, the whole multiple wives thing and, like, what it means, like, especially, like, if you wanna have kids in your life and maybe your wife isn't interested in the idea of that. So I kinda wanted to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's hard because this is one of those things where it's like there's an old way of thinking and there's kind of like a new way of thinking. So really the people that I know, if they have like multiple wives, it's really like one wife is like back home and one wife is like in the US. And so they both have children from the same guy. That's for at least for the people that I know. I'm not like too sure about like just people living here with like, I mean obviously there's plenty of relationships that aren't even like Arabic centered
Mhm,
that are like that. For the most part though, when you hear about that, it's kind of frowned upon. I myself personally, I'm not like a big fan of this. I feel weird. I'd rather dedicate my whole life to one person and try to help them achieve things. And I guess, and then there's also the question of legality. I think me and you were talking about that. Like, is it by state by state? I'm not
mhm.
too sure, but
I was gonna say, is it, like, more accepted in, like in Western country, or is it not accepted as in, foreign countries? Like,
well,
how do you
yeah,
feel it's, like,
for
accepted?
foreign countries for sure. It's a whole different whole different game there. And that's interesting because the way how they treat women, it's not super, like, horrible, but it's like a lot of people think that it's like every Arabic person's like shit to, like, some woman.
Mhm,
It's not like that. It's not like Arabic men here in this country are taking rights away from women. It's just a thing where it's like, there's the familiar dynamics between two people and I'm going to take care of you, right? And maybe we could say that men are a little bit more fresher in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to have a different wife, because I don't know what really the purpose would be now, other than like if a wife cannot have children and a man really wants to have
mhm.
children, or at least expand your bloodline a little bit more. um I don't know. This was funny actually, that episode, because they showed a little warning in the beginning. I thought some like
I know.
really, really toxic.
That was gonna be like The Boys, like Hero Gasm or some shit.
Yeah, it basically was like the boys' hero gasm, because nothing really like, is it
Right,
because you don't want us to shove shit in our guts,
right.
or is it because you don't want
Oh,
us to
the
ask
Tupperware
girlfriends?
scene, oh my god. I was
Bro,
cracking up watching that. In my
that was so
restaurant.
funny. I wish Chef Ramsay was there. He said,
Right,
"I've eaten it,"
right.
or something.
It's shit. It's rotten.
It's rotten. He was poking through it. He was like, "Look, look, 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 look."
Oh, no, it's like the help when she ate the shit pie, but it's actually he's like shit.
And I wonder why they put that warning though. Was it because of shit, or was it because you don't want men to ask their wives to like get another wife?
Right.
Probably was
I
the
think
shit thing.
it's a
Yeah.
sensitive topic, and I'm actually appreciative that they actually, like, include it. Like, it's ballsy for, like, certain shows to do, like, stuff like that where they talk about, like, things that, people are too afraid to discuss, but I think it's important, to address that, like, that is a part of their culture, and, it's perceived in many different, perspectives, mainly negative, but I think, like, in this situation, it's like, well, it can be a beautiful thing if you think about it. It's like maybe it opens up a new experience for you and your partner. I'm not saying like for myself I would do it, or I'm sure a lot of people would feel differently, but I think in that, and maybe in that culture, it can be a beautiful thing, right? Having multiple, because like look how that guy, like when he was talking to Ahmed, like he had like four wives, shit,
Right.
and they all like live next to each other, and he treated them all equally, right? And that's the thing. It's
Right.
like, and they look like they were in a very like stable relationship. So maybe it brings a new experience, or it adds like a positive thing to your marriage.
Although one thing I must say is the more wives you have, especially if you're gonna like partake in this type of culture, you have to have a good amount of money
I'm
too.
about to
And
say
I
that
think that,
motherfucker probably his taxes
yeah.
are probably
Yeah,
like shit.
that's a lot. That's a lot. I mean, that's the whole thing about this season, at least, especially a lot of talking about money,
Mhm,
right? And that's one thing. It has its ups and downs, I think, with everything.
mhm.
It's not for me personally, but
Yeah, do you think
I,
money actually, like, changes, like, how cultures are? Like,
for sure.
because
Fuck
this
yeah.
definitely, like, explored, like, how, like, even, like, very religious people, their mindset changes because of money, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, even in like Hindu culture, like a marriage, you have a lot of gold. You're presented with a lot of gold. And Arabic weddings, you're spending a lot of money. You're giving a lot of money.
Mhm.
It's just expected of you. And so a lot of Arabic men now these days, if they just came to this country, well, they have like a good amount of money back home and they have like good homes back home. So they could start a business. And that, which is really funny because with Rami, it's like, yeah, like these guys, they could, I know some guys that have like at least five businesses. Maybe they're failing, but they got like five businesses like this all the
Right.
time. And I think it's just a game you have to play. It's kind of like it's it's kind of like that carrot that's held in front of the horse, you know, but you never could
Mhm.
get it really. And I think that could be a problem because you never realize what actually makes you happy. It's just this expected duty.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that Rami kind of realized something along the way.
Mhm. I
I
thought it
feel
was
sorry for
interesting.
others.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too, like how like different cultures perceive money too. Like when the dad was like when he found out that Rami was like making deals with Israeli money, and he's like, "I don't want your money," right? I just thought it was funny because it's like would he rather his son do drugs than take money from
Right.
from Jewish people? I
Yeah.
don't know,
I don't
but
know.
just it's funny to think
Yeah.
about. It's like maybe that's like for them, like taking money from Jews are it's actually worse than drug money, right?
Well, look at Nassim working with some Jews there. It I don't know. To each his own. I think that.
It kind of makes him a hypocrite too, because it's like he hates Jews, but he still works with them and he sells to them at the same time. So it's like,
Well, that's the thing. It like in all other countries, besides, because this one is like it's just this big pot mixed in with all type of nationalities, cultures, right? But like when you go to like Egypt, when it's very like singular, you know. Whereas like it's, I mean, like for example, Jordan has Christian people too, right? But for the
mhm,
most part, like there's like a culture that's kind of similar. So I don't know, but I think money does actually, I think for this show, probably money does hinder you somewhat. I think money obviously hindered Farouk because Farouk needed the money, but at least he came to a realization of something, right?
mhm.
For Rami, he had a shitload of money and he donated most of it, right? And now he feels liberated. So for the most part, I feel like money is just this thing where it gets you in trouble. You can't live with it, and you can't live without it, you know. So
So true.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, kind of bad timing though for him to donate all that money after the parents was like, "Oh yeah, Rami's gonna pay for everything."
I
Bitch, you
feel
thought?
bad. Full circle. That's why I can't wait
Shit.
for the next season because I'm like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? So they actually probably will have to sell, or Rami's gonna get in a big problem with the lady from Israel. Um,
Well, I feel like Mr. Farouk is gonna like invest in Bitcoin, but like even though Bitcoin is struggling right now, it's like the worst time.
what's that? What's that one that got like the market crash? I forgot. It was like a
Like
recent one.
Dogecoin or some shit.
No, I forgot what it was. It was something. I was like, oh,
He
it was
buys
something
like
about the GPUs.
Ethereum stock or some shit.
Oh, I think it was Ethereum. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think something bad happened with Ethereum or something. That's
That'd be that
such bad luck.
that'd be so funny for next season. I could see that happening.
Oh God. Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
one person we didn't really mention though was Dina because she kind of has like a journey in this
she does.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you think of like her kind of transformation from like being like this anti-establishment and anti patriarchal person in season one, and now she's kind of like being more, I guess like what's the word? She's kind of like not really following what her parents want her to do, but she's kind of like compensating. She's compensating, right?
I think that this country has a problem where like we're so divided and we have so many communities and we have so many perspectives that you kind of want to follow the rest of sometimes we're kind of like sheep in that sense. And I think with Dina, I think it was beautiful the fact that she kind of opened her mind a little bit and everybody realized something in this season, whether for good, whether for bad. And I'm glad that it actually worked out for her. The guy was pretty nice, right? And they had a connection. Because so if you guys, well, if you're watching this review, you probably do know, but like she meets a guy that her mom set her up with, and they sleep with each other, which is, yeah, like what's Mo said to Rami, "You're filthy, bro," or whatever. It's like, but it was kinda like this one night stand, but the guy really felt guilty about it, and whereas she kinda looked at him as meat, and I like the fact that they're talking about rape, or I don't think he was raped, but, like, they're kinda talking about it, right? Um, but I'm glad that they went back to each other, and through that, through 2 people just discussing something where religion wasn't right there when you guys were in the bed, right? But it was there when you had that conversation in the street a little bit, or at least not so much, but at least just between 2 people. I think that's true love. I really do. I think a lot of times with this type of culture or any other culture, it's like a lot of like arranged marriages and stuff like that, and you don't really get to know each other, especially back then. Back then, you didn't even know how somebody looked like until the day of the wedding.
Right. Yeah.
So seeing this, I think it makes for a much stronger relationship, and I think perhaps they could have a strong marriage, and I'm glad that she listened to the mom somehow. It just came
hmm
in together. It was like the universe telling you or God telling you, like, "Look, this is somebody you should be with." I thought that was
And
beautifully done.
and I think that's where the clash of like ideologies really is like when you're dating or when you're meeting people. So it's like, you know, like Muslim communities, obviously it's kind of like arranged or they have like an expectation they set you up, right? A lot of other cultures are like that too. But like when you're in America, it's kind of like you pick who you want, right? It's not like somebody else picking for you. So I think with Dina, it's kind of like she compensated, right? Like, yeah, her mother was the one that picked this guy, but she got to meet him and through her eyes, right? Not through somebody else's eyes. Like she talked with him. She said, yeah, they hooked up, but she had like a few dates with him, and then she realized like, maybe it's not so bad having somebody in my life, right? Even if somebody picks it for me, it's like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like, I could have a career, but maybe stability with a man is not that bad, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you have to like pick your battles, and like you kind of have to realize where things work, where things don't. And she kind of has like a challenge this season where like she wants to be a lawyer, but she's biting off more than she can chew. Obviously, we saw that scene where like the lawyer is like, "What are you doing with this lady?" Right? Like she's trying to help people, but she's not realizing that she doesn't have the authority to do so because she didn't pass her board exam. So it's like she's kind of limited, and then she kind of has like this hidden guilt in her because like she was trying so hard to be a lawyer, and then her dad was like, you're the real son, right? So I felt like secondhand
Mm.
embarrassment. I was like, so she has like this guilt, and then like that's why I love that scene with like her in the scene because like they have like a heart to heart, and they have like this shared guilt. Um, and then like finally she comes out and she says, "You know what, mom? I'll try it your way for once, and right? Maybe it's not so bad, but it's my choice, right? It's not somebody else's." So I thought that was a beautiful like realization.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's the like your mom and dad aren't gonna be there forever, right? So you're gonna have to make your own decisions, and you're gonna have to make good decisions, right? You're gonna have to know how to. But I think that was really beautiful, that the fact that one thing that Mesa contributed to this was the guy, and I think that's beautiful because if Mesa goes away one day, right? There's that legacy of that too,
hmm
and at the same time, it was Dina's relationship. So I think it ended up being I don't know, it was, like, pretty opportune, I guess. It was well put together, like, and it felt like a thing about fate, like, it was, like, this
hmm
fate type of thing.
It
I
felt like
I really
everybody got
enjoyed
what
it.
they wanted at the end. It's like everybody won, right? It's like
Yeah.
Mesa and Farouk, their son, became successful. Their daughter is now, considering taking on a husband, right? But they're doing things their way. So it's kind of like it
Mm.
talks about like how culture is like you can set the pieces up for your children, but you kind of have to let them play the game on their own.
Yeah, that hit me pretty hard. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, going off of that, I mean, the ending, I think I felt really teary-eyed actually looking at that because Rami, as you were saying, earlier, and as I was saying, so he donated the money to the kid that got arrested, and I guess he shedded his burden, as we were saying, and he stayed there for like a long time praying. But going off of that, I want to know, what are your predictions for next season? Because we have a couple of like things that still need to be tied up for next season. God knows when next season will come. So what are your predictions for next season?
Yeah, well, obviously Rami's gonna have to, you know, deal with being a father and, learning to be part of like the child's life and like what does he bring to the table? Like, um, does he become more ingrained into, Muslim culture? Does he start like becoming like a devout person? Does he kind of like throw away like his materialistic life? I mean, we've kind of already seen that. Like he donated, like you said, like all that money. Bad timing, obviously, but and then like with his family, like we saw like Mesa and Farouk, like they kind of have like a more open-minded perspective on life. So maybe they start realizing like I don't know, like maybe they sell the house, right? Because that was the big thing too. Because they were kind of like struggling. They're gonna have to now, shit, since he donated all the
Yeah.
money.
Oh my goodness.
um, yeah, so maybe they start learning like our kids are gonna have to like learn how to live on their own, and maybe we learn this is a new journey for them, right? Because they're still struggling, and they're gonna have to learn how to live, by themselves without their kids in their life, and that's a hard thing for especially like cultural parents because they're so tied to their kids. Um, and yeah, I don't know, maybe for Dina, like, she starts realizing like marriage is a beautiful thing. Maybe well, who knows? Maybe like we'll see. Like maybe Tarek is like I don't know if he's like a good guy, but he seems like a decent guy. So I'm like maybe their relationship will flourish. But I think it'll explore like having a career and also being like in a marriage too. Like how is that like in Arabic culture? Because I think that's not like explored a lot. Is with women especially. Um, but yeah, great season overall. Like I think like everybody did great performances. Rami definitely like that whole monologue with the therapy thing. I thought that was like a beautiful episode. Really touched on like his mental state. Um, I love when the guy said, "I'm a Sikh," and the white guy was like,
Oh yeah.
"Oh, you're sick."
We all are, brother. We're- and then the guy got
um,
confused about Rami
right,
fucking the dog.
right. um, but yeah, how did you feel for this season, and what are your predictions for season 4?
Well, yeah, you were spot on. I think the same thing you're thinking about, like exactly. I think we're on the same page there of like what might happen. I really enjoyed the show so much. My mom got me into it like years ago, and finally it came back. It was a long hiatus, and it came back, and I'm so glad because we don't have many shows like that that have really transparent commentary on the Arabic community. And hey, if you guys want, go also check out on Netflix. There's a show Mo, right? So apparently, like that's a character that like I guess crosses over into Rami. So that's pretty cool. I'm like on episode 2. So guys, check that out on Netflix. Um, for the most part, though, I think this is a really important show, and A24 is behind it, man. They're on a streak. A24 is like really great with their content lately. But yeah, that about does it for this review. This was pretty much like a long episode, but if you guys stuck around, please like and share. We greatly appreciate it. And if you guys want, check out our other content reviewing a lot of other shows. We have plenty of content coming out in October, November, and December. But as always, Dylan, please give us your little thingy-majiggy.
Well, shukram, everybody that stayed around. Yeah, this was a great show, so definitely check it out and then check this review if you haven't. Of course, we're reviewing other shows like The Handmaid's Tale, great show as well on Hulu. Andor on Disney Plus, another great show, so we're reviewing that. Halloween's coming up. We have a lot of like spooky content coming for you guys. We're doing a Hellraiser review. The Barbarian, we were planning to do it this weekend, but we got a little stuck with our schedule, so that'll be coming out probably this weekend. Halloween Ends will be coming out very soon, so we'll be doing a review for that as well. And we have a lot of great content out already. We just reviewed Intergalactic on Netflix. If you guys haven't seen, our good friend Jerome joined us. So yeah, Falco. But yeah, if you're not following us already, please do on YouTube. We also have an Instagram page where we post clips of our socials, our TikTok page, our Facebook page, and of course, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor as well. But thank you guys so much, and until then, thanks for having lunch with us.
See you guys. Mabruk.